Welcome to Fridays at 4 on twitch.tv/DDOstream. I am Community Manager Cordovan. This is my regular 1-hour weekly show every Friday starting at 4 p.m. on twitch.tv/DDOstream, sent to YouTube afterwards, where I really talk about the news of the week, hang out with people from the DDO community, run some quests, and sometimes chat about some pretty big news, which is what we're up to today. I want to introduce Severlin, our executive producer. Welcome, Sev, to the show.
Can you hear me?
I can, but your camera
I seem to be frozen on
You are
screen.
frozen with a slight scowl that is certainly not reflective of your current facial features.
That's not good.
What did I do wrong? Did I do anything
Is that
wrong?
me?
Well, I tried turning on my own camera to see if that would solve it, and I think it just made things worse. But that's okay. I think your camera is, however, frozen. Maybe give it a quick refresh. There we are.
How's that?
Yep, there we go. We were actually just talking before the show today. You have a new piece of technology that we're using for this interview today. So perhaps it's just related to
my new laptop.
Yeah, new laptop smell causing some problems, as they say. Yeah.
So still finding its way.
Yeah. The reason I have you on the show today is we announced our 64-bit transfer plans this morning. You can find the article on DDO.com, find in the DDO forums, more information in the DDO Discord, and we're going to be talking about it here today over the next hour. I'll have it up on the screen in just a minute. But this has really been a process that we've been working on for quite some time here, Sev. Can you talk a little bit about sort of what brought us to where we are today for our DDO side?
Sure. One of the big things about DDO is that as an action-based game, we're always concerned about perf, right? And for a lot of time, the players were like, you need to do something about perf. And so there's a lot of technology coming down the line that we introduced with Cormier. And at first, the Cormier was good, and then we tweaked it and went through it. And I think that the performance on Cormier has been pretty excellent. At first, when Cormier was really crowded when we first started it, we certainly were able to get a lot of perf information. I didn't want to say perf again, but
yeah.
So
well, we've really been using the launch of Cormier as a way to, I not test because it's a live environment, but actually see the results of the 64-bit work on that server as we were preparing to roll out all these others that we're here today to talk about.
Right.
So
as we're doing this, we're doing a slow roll. We've introduced it in a smaller server that's kind of that doesn't allow character transfer yet. Next step will be a voluntary transfer into the new servers, and then after months of time where we can kind of tweak that and look at it from behind the scenes and figure out what's going on, then we'll have people finish off their transfers, and the other servers will become transfer only. Basically, you won't be able to play on them.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about what that means to be a, quote, ghost world here, I think, a little bit later on today. And we should also mention that some of the details have not yet been published. Some of the specifics about how precisely you'll do the transfer, we're going to have more information prior to July 9th. It'll be something like a command, and we've got an interface that we're doing some work on. But we're going to have more details about the actual process with a step-by-step guide and some screenshots and things like that ready for you as we get closer to July 9th. But we were wanted to announce this today because we do have deadlines that we need to meet, like by the end of August, and we do want to let you know so that you can get ready before July 9th to do what you need to do. So before I guess we get to the what do you need to do, we have got Auric and Thrain on the US side, and it's joining Cormier. And then on the EU side, we have our very first European-located game world with Moonsea. And Cormier is going to also have free transfers to it. It had initially started as a fresh start world with our Lanterns in the Mists event, and then we opened it up to everybody a few months ago. And now we're going to be offering transfers to it, and Cormier is just going to become a regular game world just like all the rest. So
yeah, we're excited to see like people in the EU will be able to finally play with a lower ping, which is super exciting. And basically, that I had been hoping for EU, and so Daybreak has been really great about investing into these games and having all new hardware behind the scenes, and the ability to bring this technology to bear to increase performance is super exciting for me. And having an EU one is just like icing on the top, so that people can play together. And because what'll happen is when we move the news data center to Las Vegas, and where the ping change from East Coast isn't that much, maybe 15, maybe 20, from Europe, the extra hop is meaningful, so we wanted to have a European server.
I
But
would
behind the
mention that
scenes,
there's
sorry, go
no
ahead.
forced requirement for either US or EU. So if you're on a current 32-bit game world and you're from Europe and all your friends are in the US or whatever, you could totally go to a US server. You will probably prefer in some ways to go to a EU server because of the lower ping rate, but there's nothing actually preventing you from making whatever choice you want to make in terms of the server location. And the same
Right.
goes for US folks in Europe as well.
You could even move some characters to EU, and then like if you have a couple characters in a guild that's out west, you can move them over to that.
All
So that
right.
it's super exciting.
So the process, as I stated, is going to get more detail as we get closer to July 9th. But the process we can outline today is generally how it's going to work. And that is you will pack your character, you will transfer to the new world, and then you will unpack that character. Once you do that, you can then continue to repack if you need to on your original world and just sort of keep doing what you need to do. You are going to have to pack every one of your characters that you want to send over. And the reason for that is this pack function is going to wrap up really all your character data and then get it ready to transfer with that character using our transfer wizard through the game launcher.
Yeah.
So
So
think of it like a virtual suitcase, and you're just putting all your stuff in there, taking
yeah.
it with you, and then opening it up and repopulating things.
So the pack stuff is specifically for character data that doesn't currently transfer because it's sitting in a repository that isn't actually a property on the character. What I mean by that is that right now, if you transfer, which you can from one of our servers to another, it doesn't have like Monster Manual or the pet. You saw going to Cormier that the pet and mounts didn't move over. That will go. That's what the pack command is for. And it's up to the players to be kind of responsible with it. Like my suggestion, pack, transfer, unpack immediately. Don't we're trying to find all the different ways that the pack and unpack, like if you do something weird can cause your character to like lose that data. So don't get to the other side and be like, oh, I'll unpack in time and start doing adventures and get stuff done. And like you don't want to smash your car into a tree. Like pack, transfer, unpack is your best bet in order to make a smooth experience. Because what happens is in any process like this, there's going to be a lot of CS stuff going on, and I don't think that you'll want to get into a longish CS queue with your character in that. So we definitely want you to make sure that you do expected things so that you won't have unexpected results.
As we get into the process, you'll see that we've thought of various ways, various scenarios in which you'll want to pack more or need to pack more than once in a game world. But the thought is, in general, use the pack command on the character right before you transfer, right? You see, you don't
Yeah.
need to pack and then wait a few weeks and then try to transfer. Pack, transfer, unpack. Pack, transfer, unpack. That said, you can, on a different character on that game world, run the pack command again, and you'll need to if you want to bring more than one character over. But additionally, that offers the benefit of, let's say you've transferred over a character, and in that time you had a raid night, and you picked up a piece of named loot on a different character on that server, and that raid loot is going into your shared bank or whatever, right? You can further pack your account level data and bring over that difference to your destination world. It doesn't repack everything that it's already sent over, but it has the capability to pack new things and then bring it over and then distribute it to your account on your destination world. I know that there's a lot of very minutia related questions, but in general, this means your astral shards will carry over, your guild information, creature companion, stable, mount stable, monster manual, shared crafting storage, premium, platinum vault, account bank, all that stuff is going to get packed and then brought over with you to your new game world and then populated when you unpack. There are a few things that will not be transferring. The first one will be transferring, and the rest will not. So, what is not contained in the pack information is your reincarnation cache. Now, before you get concerned that you need to do anything with your reincarnation cache, you do not. And the reason for that is because the reincarnation cache just transfers. It's always, honestly, for years now, has just transferred over using the regular transfer button without any issue whatsoever. And so it doesn't need to be packed, and thus you can just transfer like you always do with your reincarnation cache. So that is not part of the pack command, but as a result, you also don't have to need to worry about it. You can just bring it over, and that's that. However, things like your auction listings on your old world, your mail on your old world, the free roll status of your daily dice on your old world, that will not come over. And then specifically, your guild ranking will not come over unless you are a guild leader. And we can talk a little bit about guilds, perhaps in its own little breakout here. But in general, everything is coming over once you run that pack command. And if anything further needs to be packed up and sent over, you can do that on a different character.
Yeah, can you hear me still?
I do. Your camera came out just a little bit. I think if we end up having more issues, maybe I'll just make you audio only, and we can just sort of drop the camera and just have you talk. So
you're gonna have to see my frozen, because turning on and off the camera isn't working.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just do that then. I should be able to just sort of have you be audio only here for us for now. That way we don't have to have you. No one wants to stare at yourself in a frozen state for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
the dangers of new hardware.
Exactly. Okay, let me get into a few questions here. Should we park not our best character, but maybe a mule, just to see if it unpacks all the things packed? It probably doesn't hurt to keep an old, not used character on the old world, but the only thing that's really going to save you is you might need to make a new character, and you won't have to if you did that. So for the most part, that's not necessary at all, but it's certainly an option, and you can just create a character if you need to in order to bring over further stuff.
Yeah, everything that transferred before will transfer without the pack command. Like the characters were transferring before, it's just where the pack command scoops up like the last bits that didn't come over with the transfer. So if it transfers right now from server to server, it will transfer fine.
Monster Manual, we are in the midst of doing some specific testing about one of the issues that we've seen raised in the last couple hours since the announcement. That's been going on for a while, which is, what if my Monster Manual is not working right now? I did a transfer and my Monster Manual broke. Now what? What's going to happen under this new system? And we'll have more information as we get closer to the launch of these worlds on that. We need to do some further kind of testing and figuring out what to do. But in general, here's how the Monster Manual is going to work. Let's say you're not in a broken state, but you've got characters in different states on different game worlds. The way the Monster Manual works is it's ultimately additive, and the furthest along will apply. So, for example, if you've got character A that has a certain amount of account level Monster Manual progress and a certain amount of character level account progress, you'll pack that up, go to your destination world and unpack, and it'll just go there. Now let's say you go to a different world that has perhaps a little bit more than the one you just transferred. That little bit more will unpack and be populated when you unpack that character. And then in the reverse, if the character you're bringing over has less, like you already have all that stuff on your destination world, then it's not going to overwrite or anything. You just still will have what you had. So it knows the difference and can add to it. Ultimately, is how the monster manual works. There was a question on the forums about specific first-time server favor, and my belief, perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, Sev, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, which is that first-time ever world server DDO points that you get for like hitting 50, 100 favor and everything is going to happen whether you got a character transferred over or not, because I don't think that really cares what your total favor on a per-character basis is.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
For characters, the new servers were discussing having extra character slots there for all players, because we know that you have to consolidate, and maybe some other stuff that we're still discussing. I don't want to talk about the specifics, but I think that extra character slots on the new servers in order to help the consolidation process is something that we've definitely discussed, and I believe we'll be moving forward with, assuming there's no technical issue.
Yeah. Tirbior asks a question that I think is relevant to this discussion. It's good to answer. If we're transferring characters from multiple servers, can we pack them all up, then transfer, or do we pack, transfer, unpack, rinse, repeat? You can pack up all your characters and bring them to the destination world. You're unpacking on an individual character basis by logging that character into the game world and then unpacking. So in terms of the process of how all that stuff's going to work out, it's really when you hit the unpack command on that character, right? So if it's more organized for you to do it that way, I think it'll be possible. I mean, that's fine. But I don't know that ultimately it's going to impact the end result unpacking process really very much. So I think in general, Sev's suggestion that really the way to try to do it is pack, transfer, unpack, pack, transfer, unpack. Not only will it keep things more straight in your own head, but it'll probably be it'll probably be a cleaner experience, would be my expectation.
Right. Yeah, so all the 64-bit servers will have more slots for everybody than the current ones. So that hopefully that will help a little bit. But like if you have max characters on every single server, that's going to be some decisions that need to be made, because if you move them over, the tech will take over and some of your characters will be disabled because you don't have enough slots, and you have to do that. Yeah, my camera on my new laptop keeps freezing up, so I apologize.
Yeah, we're just gonna have him go sends camera audio only. This is a radio show today. Let me address the question of how guilds are going to work in general. This is an overview of the guild process. Your guild leader is the one who ultimately, when they pack, the big top-level guild information gets put onto that guild leader character. And then when that guild leader character transfers over and unpacks, the guild is reformed and re-put back into its place on its destination world. It gets a little tricky in DDO because of our guild renown and contribution and all this other stuff. But what's going to happen on an individual member basis is the individual member guild renown is packed with the character rather than the guild leader. And that's because it's part of the character data. So the character will then transfer to the destination world and unpack, and then that guild renown will get added to the guild itself. This does mean that some guilds will see adjustments to their guild level and things as a result of this process. Perhaps you've been around for a very long time and have members who long ago contributed a lot of renown, but they haven't played in a long time and aren't coming over with you. That renown, I think, will be lost as part of this process. But in general, everything that is actively been earned to a player that's actively playing will stay. I think I have that right. I think I have that right. We still have to do some of the testing as to how exactly it's expressed public facing on the other end. Some work is still underway on that, but I think that that's basically how it works. I know that the guild leader retains the guild information, and the guild renown is contributed on a per character basis. And I know during our testing that when a character unpacks, that renown is then added to the guild. So.
Right. We were looking at it, and I think that we were discussing that we kind of don't want old guilds, to drop in guild level because characters didn't get moved over.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like one of the goals. And I think that we were looking at reducing the penalty for having someone leave the guild during this process.
Yeah,
but
right.
I'm not sure where that is. So
I believe that is
retain
true.
their guild level.
Yeah, even in this case, though, a lot of that renown would not formally be lost because people who are longer than 6 months old are not generally contributed to that renown loss, as I understand it. It gets kind of complicated. Regardless, in general, the renown is with the character, the guild is with the leader, is I think the easiest way to describe it. The most important thing you need to know is that guild chest contents are not currently able to be transferred over under the system. So you're going to need to empty out your guild chests before you do this transfer. Currently, we are not able to bring that over. Also, your airship name is going to need to get redone, and the specific placement of the amenities on your ship is going to need to get redone. The amenities themselves will stay unlocked. You just need to replace them again, but you're going to have to do that. So, okay. Can you add to your pack? No. Once you run a pack command on a character, that character cannot run a pack command again until they unpack. But you can run a pack command again on a different character.
That's why I'm saying don't pre-pack and then run around and get more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pack, transfer, unpack. Don't pack until you're ready to go.
Yep. Renames are really pretty standard in terms of what people are used to, which is that if someone's already got your name on the destination world, then you're going to get a -1 or -2 or -3 or however many dashes is needed to get you the next most. And then you will get a free rename. So you'll log into that character, go into the chat, type /change name space, whatever you want your new name to be, and that will be changed. Same is going to work with guilds. And we're going to have a /guild space rename space new name to rename a guild that gets renamed as part of this process. There is one caveat we have discovered, which is that because of the way we're preserving this data and then sending it over through the pack and unpack function, the name of your guild on your origin world is not cleaned up after you leave. So that means you're still there in terms of name reservations. So if you take Cordovans of Khyber and move them to Cormier here in the future, then you can't take Cordovans over on Khyber again because it's already been taken, and that's the one that you just sent over.
Right. Like if you have a smaller guild on Cormier already and you want that name, and you'll have to disband that guild before you move your guild over.
Right.
Or you won't be able to get the name back.
Yep. There you go.
Yes, we want to give people the ability. We're trying to figure out a way to give people some extra renames so that once they settle, they can mess with their names and make sure that everything is the same, because we are consolidating. I saw that in the chat. So yeah, we definitely want to do that.
Yeah, there is some options that we can do. We could even do say some coupon codes or things like that, perhaps, and we'll do what we need to do there. So
people love names of characters. I completely respect that. They don't want to lose them, and so it's always stressful going from multiple servers to one server because you may have to rethink your name if somebody kind of goes on.
Related to overflowing the shared bank. Let's talk about that because that one comes up quite a bit in the chatter so far. So the way it works, as I understand it, is that once unpacked, right, things are going to go into your account level storage. If that account level storage has more stuff in it than normally your cap is, it goes into an overflow state. And if it's in an overflow state, you can pull things from it, but you can't add to it. It basically is locked to being added to until you pull below your current limit.
Right.
I believe that's the case with subsequent unpacks as well. So that, for example, if you had an overly full shared bank, you couldn't do a subsequent unpack, but I don't think I actually know if that is true or not.
Yeah.
I
To
think
catch up
that's
on
going to be
some of the
true, right?
questions,
Yeah.
The last name is a good question. I don't remember if renames last name. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something for that.
Last names don't get renamed, as if I
Yeah,
recall
so
correctly. So it would
we'll have
stay
to.
the same, but I don't know whether a rename allows you to change it or not.
Yeah, what we did on Lotro is if there is someone who has a long-standing high-level character, and someone else just creates a first-level character with that name, and they talk to CS, then CS will look, and if it's obvious like it's a brand new character that has no, they'll fix the name so that we don't want people sniping like streamers and stuff because they go public, they kind of put themselves in a vulnerable position.
Mm-hmm.
So if the character was created like just obviously for the purpose of taking the name, they just pop that name, add a character to that name, and set that up. We'll do that on a case by case basis. But if somebody like legitimately has a character and picked your name, and even if they're a lower level, but they were playing for 5 years and maybe they're 13th, that might be a big deal to them. That's the danger of this.
The danger of speaking about it, by the way, can also be there as well, which is that we do recognize that when you consolidate multiple game worlds to fewer game worlds, you will in fact have legit name conflicts and more than one person with a legit claim to a name. So it
Right.
gets pretty tricky pretty quickly, and we would not want to make some kind of promise that, CS would or would not engage in some kind of activity based on it. But in general, sniping a name as a form of trolling and harassment is trolling and harassment. And as a result, we are able to take action when we can substantiate it.
Yeah.
Let's get to the bit of a sad news here. So, 32-bit game worlds. What's going on with the 32-bit game worlds?
So what'll happen is at some point the 32-bit game worlds will become so when they will be closed as you know them. And you want to transfer before then, because for a time, the 32-bit game worlds will be picked up and they'll be moved to a ghost state, essentially. You'll be able to log in and grab your stuff and do transfer, but you won't be able to go in dungeons. You can't get XP. You won't be able to do anything. And we don't know, it'll probably take some time to scoop them up and move them. So I wouldn't wait. I would definitely try to get your transfer off before they close, because we don't want you waiting the 3 days or even 4, because that data is getting moved to the new data center and then they're propped back up and all of that. So make sure you transfer before then. After that, you would have to log into those worlds, which will be kind of like little mini worlds. You'll be able to grab your stuff and then you'll be able to transfer, but that's pretty much all you'll be able to do.
I've heard it said it's a little bit like maybe what you've experienced as a player on a hardcore world after a hardcore season, with a difference that all kind of questing and all that is locked and you can't earn XP, but you do have access to, say, bank storage and things like that you need.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking about VIP name reservation, because we did that for Lotro. I think I don't have an answer for that, because right now I think the problem is that, unlike Lotro, in DDO, if we lock the server for VIP only, you can actually come in and make characters. You just can't log in, which means the VIP name reservation, we don't have the tech for it. And so I don't have an answer for you on that right now. It might just become first serve, first come, first serve, unless we can come up with either a clever way of doing it or introduce new tech. But right now, I'd rather have a solid transfer service and be first come, first serve if we need to. And once that's done, we can look at like VIP name reservation before then.
Yeah. Is there an option to bulk transfer? So, yes, with an asterisk. The current transfer in Dungeons & Dragons Online allows you to select multiple characters to transfer, and that transfer wizard is the one that we're going to be using here for these upcoming transfers. In general, though, it is a better idea to transfer your characters on an individual basis than trying to just get it all done with a select all. And the reason for that is, if you think about the process that we're heading into come July 9th, we have a whole lot of people with a whole lot of characters that need to get places. And if you just load your truck up to be a 30-foot cargo van, it's different than if you're in a Pinto, you know?
I also don't want to put you in a situation where you can't play, because the queue might be 2 days if tons of people go in. So like, grab the 3 or 4 characters and leave some characters in the back, so that once you go in, you can still happily play on the 32-bit servers, and you'll have, like, I think more than 2 months to slowly move your characters over.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's kind of anxious because of name reservation, but I don't think you want to select all and just move them all and then do that on all the servers, because then you're going to be kind of locked out of playing the game.
But functionally, can you say pick your 3 to 4 mains and do them all at once? Yes. And then you'll unpack them on an individual basis for each character. All right. And then, yes, we intend to offer free transfers from these 32-bit worlds as ghost worlds for at least 2 years. And the thought would be we do want to try to catch people who come back every now and then to DDO who maybe aren't hearing my voice today, but might learn about this in 6 months, right? So,
yeah.
Speaking of the bad news, though, let me do one other bit of bad news. We're killing the old forums. Forums-old.ddo.com is going away, and I apologize for this. We did want to try to keep the forums in a read-only state for as long as we possibly could, but unfortunately, we can no longer support it, and it had to go away. So when we bring everything down at the end of August, the old forums are going to be going away as well. So if there's anything left over to copy paste in terms of text, please do so on the forums. And I'm sorry, DDO wiki editors. We'll do it. See me in person, see me in Discord or something. We'll see what we can do to help you out. But ultimately, the old forums are going away, and with it, all those old links and such. So. Unfortunately, I don't think that's something we can give to someone else to host. I think the problems are deeper than that.
There's personal information there that we wouldn't feel comfortable giving to a third party.
Yeah. Well, so I mostly have the news from the article done that I could think of, and really at this point it gets into some of the more technical details and questions. So I guess we could start talking a little bit about that as best as we can.
Transfer as we test it can bring your TR cache. We haven't seen problems. In the past, there was some concerns about TR cache, so if you're really concerned, I'd clean it out, but it should go fine.
To some extent, it's become a bit confusing this afternoon because we have a particularly old world transfer document that was developed around 2013. And at 2013, someone like myself, who may have in fact been myself, received a message from someone higher up at the time as we need to tell players not to transfer with their reincarnation cache. And so we did that. This was, 12 some years ago, right? But the reality is for years, and that was the case for my understanding several years at least, but for many years now, people have been able to just take their TR cache with them without issue. And that's the case, not just currently today before these transfers, but after these transfers begin on July 9th, your reincarnation cache is just going to come with you as part of the transfer wizard. You don't need to pack it. It's not being packed because it doesn't need to be packed because it just comes with you.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for the guild renown. I believe that it's stored with the guild. So if you join another guild, it's not like that renown will suddenly go to another guild.
No, it will not. As a matter of fact, it's in this article somewhere in this article, but specifically if you create a new guild before you unpack your old guild information, that old guild information is going to get lost. And that makes sense because it doesn't have a way to your guild's you can't unpack it. So basically what this means is you do need to you should not create a new guild as a member prior to unpacking your guild membership information. You won't need to, because when you unpack, your guild will be created. So there's no reason to create a guild. But on top of that, you don't want to, because the new server is not going to understand, hey, this is a new guild, and what happened to my old one? And no, we've never allowed just you to bring renown with you to a new guild. Will the transfers begin right at midnight July 8th or sometime during July 9th?
No, there'll be an update.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
There'll be a downtown and an update, and when it comes back up, the servers will come up, and then when it comes back up, the pack command will be there, and all of that.
Well, probably, we haven't really quite gotten to that level of detail about specifically what time of day on July 9th we'll be doing various work, but one can generally expect that we like to target when you're off work as a player. So on the US side, it'll be one point during the day, and the European side will probably be earlier in the day by about 6 hours or so.
The crafting bank has the same overflow, I believe, as everything else. So as you unpack, it'll overflow into your crafting bank, and then you'll have to pull stuff out before you add things.
Yep. We will have to get back to you in terms of the public-facing impact of deceased and or non-active guild member renown. That's something I'm just not prepared to really give a permanent statement about today. I would want to check with the people who are doing the testing to see what they're seeing in their testing behavior before I try to address that. But my belief is that guild renown is done on a membership level, and so if that member does not in fact transfer over or rejoin the guild, then that renown would be not accounted for. And if that's not true, well, then let me correct myself perhaps in a week or something. So,
yeah, these are good questions we'll bring back. But Dampier is coming soon. The pre-release is on its way. It's coming soon. We're psyched.
Yeah.
Merging guilds are going to have to kind of be done manually. Like, you're not going to be able to merge guilds from multiple servers into the same thing.
Correct. Specifically, there is no process by which to do that. So even if you have Cordovans on Kyber and Cordovans on Argo, you can't merge the Cordovans from Argo and Kyber together.
Right.
They will, however, retain their individual state. The second one you log into will get a rename. Or the second one you unpack, rather, will get a rename. But then you could just change it to whatever you wanted it to be. If the
guild leader moves...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I believe the guild disappears for the people, but if you didn't specifically get rid of it, you wouldn't be able to make a new guild with that name. That's the problem, is the name will still be the guild will exist kind of behind the scenes. That's why you want to disband the guild. That's why the only time this matters is for Cormier. If you have a guild on Cormier and you want to move a guild over and take that name, you'll have to disband that guild. Do not disband the guild under 32, because when you do that, you won't be able to pack it. So don't get confused about what we're saying.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the guild will go away. The only reason that you would disband the guild beforehand is if you specifically on Cormier want to overwrite to have a new guild with that name. That's the only time you do that. If you try to disband on the 32-bit, then you won't be able to pack it, and then you'll lose the guild. So don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is only in the case of a less developed guild on Cormyr that the same guild leader wants to bring their more developed guild from a 32-bit world onto
Right.
Cormyr and specifically, essentially overwrite the old guild. And that would be done by disbanding the old guild and then bringing over and unpacking the more fully developed guild. But otherwise, do
Yeah.
not disband your guild. You don't need to, and you shouldn't, because you need to pack it to bring it over.
Right. If you have two guilds on two different characters, each with their own name, like when you do the transfer of the guild, uh, each one will come over and each character will start on the new server in a different guild like you were on the 32-bit guild. And then people have to come over in that guild.
As with is always the case for this kind of thing, the process itself is pretty easy and very similar to taking a trip between the US and Europe or something. Like if I was going to be going to Paris this weekend, I would pack my suitcase, get on a plane, and then unpack my suitcase in the hotel. And that's exactly what you're doing here. You're packing your stuff, traveling, and then unpacking. And really, it's all that's going to be all you really need to worry about. For the
Right.
most part, a lot of this is just going to work as expected. It'll just happen, and you don't have to worry about it. Because DDO is a very complex game in some cases, you've got complex questions about renown and membership and all that sort of thing. But the process itself is really pretty basic. And in terms of the actual way you'll do it, we'll let you know by July 9th. At the very least, it'll be something like a command you'll run from the chat window, but we're developing some UI stuff as well, something like a button to push. So, and I know I've never been to Paris, just for the record.
The accounts are receiving bonus character slots. Yes. And we're looking at other bonuses to give players to help the process.
Yep.
The 64-bit servers does not have either a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts, so you'll have to get your iced coffee elsewhere.
Well, you say that now. We still have we have till July 9th. Duncan could show up magically. I mean,
there is no max number of tunes the world can hold in overflow that we are aware of. But one of the things you can do is there's going to be four servers, so if you have that many characters, you may want to spread them out. You notice how I specifically am not giving you a number of slots. I would like, because we're still working on it. I don't mean to be sorry. That was a little snarky. I didn't mean to be that, but like, no, I'm being vague about that because we're still discussing how many slots. Not like we want to be generous, but it won't be enough if you have massive amounts of characters on every single server. You're going to probably go into overflow.
We will have more information on the timing of our pre-purchase for our upcoming expansion, Chill of Ravenloft, quite soon. We'll have more information to answer your question there, Nimvind, about when we'll see more information about the pre-purchase.
Soon.
TM.
Shared bank contents will basically, as you pack up, the shared bank contents will get scooped up in the pack, and then they'll get kicked into the shared bank on the other side. And what'll happen is you'll start overflowing, and so you won't be able to put anything into your shared bank until you do that. If it's for your guild shared bank, you want to clean that out. That won't go.
I am reading questions. Let me take a look while perhaps you look quick for questions there, Sev. I'm going to look at our Lamania schedule and see if I can provide a little more information to the public here about our Lamania schedule.
Yeah, that's great.
We do have, it won't be next week, I can tell you that much, but I think we are currently on track to do our next Lamania preview the week following, so that would be the week of starting Sunday, June 22nd, so probably something like the 24th, 25th. We'll have a further Lamania with Chill of Ravenloft. You already saw the Dampier and the iconic Dampier, the movement style, the Hireling, and we're ready to move into content-related parts of the expansion. So I think that 24th preview will be something like some subset of Lamortia Dungeons, and we'll have more detail as we get actually closer to it, and the teams that are more deeply involved do that work. And then we have a second Lamania set for something like a few weeks later after that. That would be a further iteration of our Lamania preview.
Just be aware of when you start proclaiming mega servers. One is that you'll be fighting queues and lag if you overload one specific server too much. I mean, I believe that the server can hit its limit and not have performance issues, but I think you want to make an effort to spread out a little bit and make sure that your guild is on something. On the other hand, I think it'll be fun because you'll have many more players to play with. So the looking for group will fill, and you might hit queues if everyone's trying to get into the hot server, but you probably want to spread out a little bit so that like to help out.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately, it isn't infinite, right? So we do want players to spread out across the US game worlds. There's a reason we've got multiple of them being deployed rather than one, right? So
right. Someone said you need to answer this question, but I didn't see what the question is, so I apologize. I'm not trying to duck your question. 1,800 will be the queue limit to start.
The future events. I assume by the future events you're talking about the references in the producer's letter this year related to stuff that we're doing later this year for events. And my belief is that that's going to be on probably something like all the game worlds, I think. I don't think that's like a Cormier only thing.
Yes, the Cormier got past 16. Cormier almost hit 1,800 to start. But keep in mind, and it was very well, but keep in mind they're heavier characters now.
Yeah.
Cormier. So
that's actually a very big difference that we've seen, is that these bigger characters that are very fully developed over the course of, in some cases, almost 20 years now, are going to be in a very different position in terms of certain aspects than a brand new level 1 first lifer on Cormier.
You'll need to pack your individual tunes, although honestly, I think realistically, once you pack and unpack and get all your pets and mounts and your best person with the most complete monster manual and your account storage, you'll probably just transfer the others. You'll just lose those extras that don't transfer now, essentially.
I don't know what our ability to have a Lamania style transfer test is, so I can't really speak to that question. I apologize. Sorry, you cannot be dritzed.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be doing some fun stuff for it. I know that it will be, people will be doing pre-release stuff because it's coming after the pre-release, and so there's a lot going on.
Can you explain a little bit about the decision to allow transfers to Cormier? Is it for load balancing? We spoke a little bit earlier on Cormier how it started as a VIP event server, and then in mid-April now we opened it up to everyone, and now it's becoming a standard game world.
Sure.
Ultimately, what are we thinking about Cormier's future?
So as I said, part of this is slow rolling things out so that we can catch stuff. We wouldn't want to just jam everybody on the new servers overnight and then just open the servers and hope for the best. So Cormier was like, not only did it serve as a hardcore, non-hardcore event server, but it is also a great live action load test to see how many players. But now that that is done, that's hardware is expensive, I'll be honest with you. And so we can't just have Cormier sitting there not living up to its potential. And so now that the event is done, we can use Cormier as one of the 64-bit servers, and we'll have 3 US and 1 EU.
Ultimately, I suppose we could have closed Cormier, transferred everyone off Cormier to a brand new 64-bit server that was named something else, but it didn't really seem to make sense to do that when we were looking at it. And the fact that Cormier already has a pretty healthy population on it right now of players just playing along, why make them transfer, really?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So that answers that. Yeah, we want to have as many people obviously on servers as possible so that they feel full. So that's great. Auric? I believe it's just Auric.
Well, I heard Knockback talk about this week. Apparently, it has two pronunciations. Auric is one, Oiric is another, because it can have sort of a by proxy cultural pronunciation based on Gygax's original thinking about how to do Auric, which is part of Orth, which was part of the original Greyhawk, right? But he pronounced it Oiric. Like O-Y.
I can only tell you how I'm going to pronounce it. I can't tell you how it was originally pronounced. And for me, it'll be Auric.
Oiric. Yeah, I probably could call it Auric too. But yeah. At the moment, I have not heard anything about commemorative things to mark the transfers. Thankfully, I believe we'd have time to consider that both during but also afterwards. If we wanted to do something after we were all done here, to maybe mark the occasion, we could do that. We've got a few minutes left, about 5 minutes, so good opportunity to get in those last questions if you would like to. Meanwhile, let me just real quick go through a bit of news. I did want to call out that we do have our summer sale underway. We're doing special weekly sales every week through July 10th. And these are different than our normal sales, so I wanted this one calling it out. So this week we have a 35% off Wish of Inheritance, a 60% off alignment change, and 75% off character slots. So that's maybe an option as well if you're a couple character slots short and you've got the free points or whatever sitting around. You can 75% off probably puts that within that range. So maybe you could add a few. And then you've got through June 9th on that one as well. I would also point out that our freebie this week is pretty good. It's our Lesser Treasure Hunter's Elixir. So Lesser Treasure Hunter's Elixir, just slight chance to get a little bit better loot, and that's Found It is the coupon code, so no reason not to do that one essentially. And then this weekend as well, we're having a 10% VIP XP weekend. So if you are a VIP, you'll get a total of 20% VIP XP, and if you're on Cormyr, it's 25, because we have that additional 5% boost happening through July 6th on Cormyr, and that does work on your Stones of Experience as well, if you're interested. I know VIPs like to sometimes wait for these weekends to do their reincarnations, and this is your weekend then. For everyone else, though, too, if you're not VIP, we have a double Commendations of Valor boost going on through Sunday as well.
I don't know if naming all the servers after, like, Demon and Devil Lords would be a good idea, ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that like, I think that it would have been cool until like the people who have to do marketing would have been like, absolutely not.
Yep.
That's a hard sell.
We had to come up with names. Can you imagine what those brainstorming sessions are like about what should we call our servers? Can you imagine how many names are on that list?
Yeah, there's so many names.
Yeah. Everyone's got an opinion. Mine were the only right opinions, but no, I'm kidding, of course.
It's about that time, so squeeze in those last-minute questions.
Yeah. I don't think we typically get into specific location of our game worlds, but people tend to figure that stuff out pretty quick, and I would expect that to be the case here as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
We've got some people. This has been a stream thing about having either a chipmunk mount or a squirrel mount. Which one we go for is kind of, I think chat's cool with
you. You knew that when the when the giant rodent came out and started trashing players, that they would all want it as a mount. That was inevitable.
I heard some sad news this week on that, a little bit, which is I understand we can't just sort of copy-paste the big squirrel that's in the raid into a mount rig or whatever and make it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work like that. So
I'm also a Githyanki and Githzeri fan, so never say never in terms of races.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, Tybeer. I don't think we can just take that big squirrel and put it on the horse rig and have it work. I think they basically have to remake it if they want to turn it into a mount. At least someone told me that this week. All right. Well, why don't we wrap things up here then? It's been a busy week for a lot of us, and we have a lot going on. So thank you so much, Sev, for joining me here on Fridays at 4.
I apologize about the camera thing. My camera might be too old for my new computer, so I'm going to have to mess with it. The sad thing is I tested it earlier in meetings, it worked fine. And then I get on stream, and it's like, nope.
To be fair, it could be something on my end as well. I am running a live stream and doing all sorts of software in that. So it's possible it's on my end as well. But
I don't think so, because when I turned it off and turned it on again, it started working for a time, and then it would go off.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's on now, but I can guarantee all of you that today on stream, once my camera went off, I looked far less grumpy and I was far better looking than normal, but you're going to have to take my word for it.
The camera just was like, nope, too good. We got to keep that average. Got to keep that average going. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Sev, for joining me. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
And thank you, everyone, for watching Fridays at 4 on twitch.tv/DDO stream. I'll be back, I think, next Friday. If not, it'll be 2 weeks from now. I have to take someone to an airport next Friday. Someone is going on a trip that is not me. And so I don't know how that's going to impact my live stream schedule on Friday. But depending, I'll either be here or I won't. If not, I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you're watching on YouTube, liking this video is the easiest, best, fastest way to help us out, because it'll spread the word of this video and DDO content in general across the YouTubeosphere. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.